Get your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.
After creating a folder, you are the folder's owner. It's up to you to decide what users on your network can access the folder, and also what types of activities they can do if they have access to the folder. If you are the folder's owner, or have been given the owner permission by the folder's owner, you can set the folder permissions by right-clicking on the public folder for which you want to set the permissions, and then just selecting the Properties command from the pop-up menu that appears. This will launch the Properties dialog box, where you'll be able to set permissions for the selected public folder. If you see a tab that says Summary, that means that you do not have the required permission level to modify permissions for that folder. If you believe you should have that permission level, then contact your network administrator or the folder's owner to change your permission settings. If you can set permissions, then you should see a tab that says Permissions when you open the Properties dialog box. Click that tab to view the permissions that have been set for the folder. There are 3 permissions created by default: the folder owner's permission, the default permission, and the anonymous permission. The default permission is the permission level granted to all of the other users on the network who do not have an explicitly defined permission for the selected folder. You can modify the permission level of the default identity to change the permission level of all the users who have access to this public folder. To do this, simply click the default identity from the list at the top of the Permissions tab and look to see what permissions have been set for that role in the Permissions section located immediately below it. You can then use the drop-down menu that's available from the permission level to change the role of the default permission. That then modifies the associated abilities that are individually listed beneath the permission level drop-down box, depending on which permission level you choose from this list. So for example, if I didn't want people to have any permission, I could choose none. And notice the individual abilities like create items, read items, create subfolders, whether or not the folder is visible, have all been, in this case, restricted. If I didn't even want them to see the folder, I could uncheck Folder Visible. They wouldn't even know it was there. Now, depending on the type of material you'll be placing in the folder, you may want to completely restrict access to the default permission and then specify permissions for each individual user on your network to whom you wish to grant folder access. However, if the material needs to be accessed by everyone, you could also change the default permission so at least everyone can see the material in the folder, if not edit it. You could then add users to whom you would grant editing and deleting permissions within that folder. You can add individuals or groups to the permission list of the folder as long as they are on your network. That way you can modify the permission levels of the individual users and user groups in your network. This allows you to have more control over who has access to your public folder and what activities they can perform within the folder. You can also delete user permissions that are no longer applicable. For example, if a user were to leave the office, you should delete any access to the public folders that they had. If you're interested in setting strict security over the contents of the folder, consider adding and setting individual permissions for only the users that you want to have access to the public folder, and then setting the default permission level to none. To add a user or user group on the Permissions tab, click the Add button below the list of user permissions to the folder. This launches the Add Users dialog box, which is similar to the Select Names dialog box we use to address email. You simply select the names of the users that you want to add from the list and click the Add button to move the user into the list at the bottom. When you've finished adding the users for whom you would like to set individual folder permissions, click OK to add them to the permissions list. Then, to specify each user's permission settings, select their names from the permissions list, and then select a role from the permission level drop-down below the list that you would like that individual to have, such as an author, for example, who can create items, read items, see the folder, can edit their own items, and delete their own items. You can set the permission level of any selected user or user group that you have granted folder access to by selecting one of the permission levels from the permission level drop-down. Just select the user or group name from the name list at the top, and then choose the permission level from the section below that. So let's look at the permission levels and what it grants to the user. You could be the owner, and an owner can create, read, change, or delete any items inside the folder. They can create subfolders and can grant and modify all permissions for the folder. We also have publishing editors. They can create, read, change, and delete all items, and they can also create subfolders. An editor can create, read, change, and delete all items. A publishing author can create and read items and also create subfolders. They can also change and delete items that they created. An author can create and read items. They can also change and delete items that they created. A non-editing author can just create and read items. A reviewer can read items only. A contributor can create items only. The contents of the folder will not appear. They have no read access. And none has no permissions in the folder. However, they know the folder is there because the folder is visible to them. Now, the folder owner can create a custom permission level by simply checking or unchecking the individual permission level settings in the permission level drop-down. So this allows you to create your own permission settings as needed in case the permission levels specified do not fully allow or restrict the particular activities desired by the owner. So for example, I could have student 3, the selected user, create items, be a folder contact, read items, and as far as editing items, they can edit everyone's, but they can't delete anyone's. And you can see the permission level changes to custom when we specify our own settings. At that point, once you had set all the permissions for the selected users, you could simply click OK to set the permissions.
Like what you see? Pick up your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.